Right. So today I'd like to talk about the deflation. Is it over in Japan and what could happen? This with the developments you are seeing right now, I think it's crucial to update everybody with regards to the latest development in Japan. Right. Okay. So after 2 decades of persistent deflationary pressures, right, the Japanese government is now engaging in discussion that could lead to an official declaration of victory over deflation. Now, this comes after a period that saw both prices and wages rising across the board, right, since the spring of 2022. Now, the Japanese government has acknowledged that this economic shift in its annual economic report, better known as the white paper, indicating that the nation may be at a pivotal moment in overcoming the deflation that has plagued its economy for a quarter of a century, right? So although the Japanese authorities have consistently maintained that the nation is not grappling with deflation, they have stopped short of definitely stating that deflation has been conquered. However, the current economic climate, right, characterized by a recent spike in inflation, not only in Japan, but in a lot of other countries that we'll be monitoring, driven primarily by escalating import costs and promising signs of sustainable wage growth, suggests that Japan may finally be poised to close the chapter on its long-standing deflationary period. So what's happening also, investors, right, they are vigilantly monitoring the Bank of Japan for signs of an impending interest rate hike. And it would be the first since 2007. So when they do that, there's going to be a change in the overall fundamental as well. Because I see this overall, see this as a step, as a critical indicator of Japan's economy recovery and a potential shift in its monetary policy stance. Now, in a very emphatic statement to these changing economic conditions, Japan core inflation soared to a 40-year high of 4.2% January and consistently exceeded the Bank of Japan's 2% target for the 16 consecutive month as of July 2022. It has been a very long time. That's why tomorrow's data from Japan, the core inflation, that is very, very crucial as well, right? So this sustained inflationary trend is largely attributed to companies passing on the increased cost of raw materials. Concurrently, the Japanese labor market has remained robust, exerting pressure on businesses to offer significant wage increases during annual salary negotiations with labor unions, right? So far this year, companies responded with the most substantial wage offers seen in 3 decades. Now, this bolstering the argument for a shift away from long-standing ultra-loose monetary policies that has defined Japan's approach to economic stimulation for years, right? So I think the most important thing here is that what will happen if the Bank of Japan finally hikes its rates from -1 to 0%. So here are the implications, several implications for the Japanese yen, considering the economic context outlined. First of all, if they were to increase, we would probably see an appreciation of the yen, because it's typically an increase in interest rates makes currency more attractive to investors seeking higher returns for investment in that currency. So if the BOJ, right, hikes interest rates to 0%, it could lead to an appreciation of the yen due to increased demand from foreign investors. Now, this effect would be pronounced if the rate hike is perceived as a signal of confidence in the Japanese economy's recovery and a step towards normalizing monetary policy after years of ultra-loose settings. Now, and the impact of inflation in Japan, a stronger yen would lower the cost of imports. Okay, because you buy things cheaper right now, including raw materials and energy, which have been significant contributors to the recent inflation spike. So this might help moderate inflationary pressures in the short term, aligning with BOJ's target inflation rate of 2%, right? So overall, the market sentiment is also important because the decision to hike rates would significantly influence market sentiments. It might be viewed as a vote of confidence in the Japanese economy's strength, potentially attracting more investors into the country. However, it could also lead to concern about the impact of export competitiveness. If you know, Japan is an export-oriented country, and as the yen gets expensive, so will people's demand on Japanese products, right? There's a possibility there. Not only affects the exports, also corporate profits, and so on, leading to the stock market as well. That all will be affected. And I think the most important thing is if they were to increase to 0% increase, that's one thing is the debt service cost, because a rate hike would also affect domestic borrowers, including the government, businesses, and household. High interest rates would increase the cost of servicing existing debt, which might have implications for government spending, business investment, and consumer spending as well. Right? So, most important, in summary, the hiking of BOJ's interest rates to 0% could lead to a stronger yen, which mixed implications for the Japanese economy. The actual impact would depend on various factors, including the pace and magnitude of rate hikes, global economic conditions, and the responses of businesses and consumers within Japan. Okay, so why this is important? Because if tomorrow, any signs of the rate hike, they talk about that, you can actually see, the Japanese yen drop as much as 1,000 pips. That is why everybody is focusing on this particular currency at the current moment, that this possibility, because the Bank of Japan is the only leading economy central bank that has not hiked rates when others have already done so. So it might finally follow up, since that we have seen inflation persistently staying above the 2% rate for some time. And with Japan finally admitting that, deflation might not be something that is going to continue in the US and in Japan. And when that happens, right, they'll be probably looking into controlling rates by not hiking rates for the first time. Okay, so be on the lookout, and let's see. Okay, so that's the end for the fundamental report. Let's move on to the chart.